Hi Asia E-Traders, I'm Steve Edge. Welcome to episode number 2 of Asia E-Trading TV. We had some feedback from our first show, which sound quality was the number one problem. I think you'll agree it's a bit better now. Also, I was speaking too fast. I guess my Canadian twang was hard to follow, eh?
11 points to bring you.
At any rate, this show promises to be a whole lot better. The Philippine Stock Exchange went live with the new PSE Trade XTS platform with Nasdaq's extreme trading technology. I guess they beat Singapore out for that deal. Well, this is a great development for one of the regional juniors. It demonstrates how the region is progressing, though they are still light years away from a deep pool of liquidity. Perhaps we'll finally see them join the faltering ASEAN trading link as well. They originally had cited technology shortcomings for not subscribing to the link 2 years ago. Well, this should do the trick, though the network provider, who shall not be named, may not be up to the task. The Philippine Security and Exchange Commission is also working towards a mutual recognition framework with the other ASEAN regulators. Those talks must be so boring. The PSE is the smallest exchange by turnover by far in ASEAN at around 700 million US per month. And with the 50 basis point transaction tax, I don't know how much international flow it will attract anyway. Verdict is, a step forward, but many more to come. Charles Lee kept his job at the Hong Kong Exchange for another 3 years. Well, let's look at his track record. He purchased the LME for far too much and has yet to yield much value for shareholders from it. He did try to raise prices, as all good monopolies should at the LME, but traders did put their foot down. Then there is, of course, Orion, the Hong Kong Exchange's answer to a swanky colocation facility for its matching engine points of presence that's really more about charging fees than providing a customer-centric service. I understand that even the proximity providers aren't even allowed to buy a rack in there either. And Stock Connect, a gateway to the golden goose that is China's capital markets. Or just another way to charge fees. Yeah, of course it's the latter. The former is restricted, as usual anyway, but maybe one day in the magical land of international exchange providers there will be VWAP crosses or non-display order types or even the holy grail of any stock exchange, a closing auction. Though I understand there is some movement on that front recently. Well, as a CEO, your fiduciary responsibility is to the shareholders, and on that account he's doing great, but at the expense of its customers and the industry. Well, I guess it's not hard to make money when you operate a monopoly. HKEX came out with its findings from the breakdown on the 5th of November last year. The power outage, which they say was triggered by a voltage drop in not one, but both power lines to the HKEX primary data center. Well, not only that, there was a combination of faulty components in the emergency backup power supply generator, and the downstream switches couldn't cope with the malfunction. It's like a perfect storm. Both power lines down, emergency backup with faulty components, and the downstream tech couldn't take it. Maybe it was an inside job. You may recall there was a delayed opening at the HKEX on the 3rd of December as well, and the Central Depository printed some bad statements, as we reported in our last show, caused by human error. Now, the Monetary Authority of Singapore has given them a slap on the wrist where the changes they demand are going to cost around $15 million US. You may recall also in 2010, to much fanfare, the HKEX announced that it was investing the grand sum of around $200 million in a new initiative to boost trading speeds and enhance connectivity with global financial markets. They said they would spend $50 million of that money for a new securities trading engine and $150 million for infrastructure outsourcing services and data centers, cleverly named the REACH initiative. Granted that $150 million is for access points globally, not just at home, but all that money couldn't manage a simple power fluctuation and brought ASEAN's premier bourse to its knees? Now they need another $20 million to get their technology up to par? Maybe I'm in the wrong business and should change to IT. The Keppel DigiHub is where this cutting-edge state-of-the-art hosting facility is located. Savvis provides the IT infrastructure service, and High-Tech is the company that provides the uninterruptible power supply. I guess they were interruptible after all. In other news in Asia, Korea FSC Chairman Yoon Jong-yang will push for a revamp of Korea's tax code in order to draw in investors and uncomplicate the different tax policies. Sounds like the Europeans could take a page out of that playbook. Ice Clear Singapore signed up its first 3 members when they received regulatory approval from the Monetary Authority of Singapore. They're KGI On Capital, UOB Bullion and Futures, and Phillip Futures. Now, if the exchange would only launch after 3 delays, we might have something. The gossip heard at the long bar is that the technology provider is dropping the ball, but you didn't hear it from me. The New Zealand exchange has begun a consultation for its dairy derivatives regarding surveillance. It's a small market trading in whole milk powder futures and options, skim milk powder and hydrous milk fat, and butter futures. It seems to make sense to have some sort of surveillance, of course, and it's good to see the Kiwis trying to build that market. Well, maybe they should have an exchange-traded mammary spread. After all, the Americans have a knob spread, so why not? HKEX in Japan announced that it would be listing new products and revising its trading rules for its next-generation derivatives trading systems, aptly named NextJD. Well, that's our show for this week as we see Asia market structure. As always, we welcome feedback, good or bad, to our show, and thanks to those who did provide feedback from episode 1. We really appreciate that. And of course, advertising inquiries are always welcome, and they can be sent to support@asiaetrading.com. And if you're interested in European market structure news, tune in to our EU e-trading show as well. For Asia E-Trading, I'm Steve Edge.